Everyone must admit that if a law is to have a moral force, to be the basis of an obligation, it must carry with an absolute necessity. Page 9, The Metaphysics of Morals. This well-known saying was written by the 19th century German philosopher who was famous for his work on ethics, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was born 1724 in the Baltic city of Königsberg and died in 1804 in his city. Growing up, his family were all very strict and religious. Kant's family did not make much money, and yet he grew up positive, remaining modest until his adulthood. Although he did not have any religious beliefs, he was aware of just how much religion had contributed to his parents' ability to cope with the many hardships throughout their lives. But to Kant, the pairing of religion and morality was not a good match. Guess the two can't be together forever. Freedom was everything to Kant, and he thought that if we acted upon our best nature, then freedom will come. But if influenced by someone else's actions or our own passions, then we are slaves. We must act on our own free will. This brings up Kant's conception of freedom, which is separated into two terms. The first is autonomy, which is to live and act freely. You will only act according to the law you bestow upon yourself. The second term is heteronomy, which Professor Sandel of Harvard University describes as, quote, to act according to desires one hasn't chosen themselves, end of quote. From these two, Kant advises that freedom is autonomy, and this is the only conception of freedom that there should be. Not only was Kant persistent in his conception of freedom, but morality was also a focal point. You see, morality was a topic that Kant often brought up, and also something he took seriously. In his book, The Metaphysics of Morals, he writes, quote, not only are moral laws with their principles essentially distinguished from every other kind of practical knowledge, in which there is anything empirical, but moral philosophy rests wholly on its pure part. End of quote. Page 10. To Kant, morals should be of utmost importance, and when an individual does something morally correct, it should be due to the pure intentions. When applying this law to a person, it should give them a pure reason. Since we are all rational beings, we shall all have reason, and he paints out reason to be the ground for morality. He had formulated a principle of morality and wanted everyone to follow the principle. He writes, quote, we can readily distinguish whether the action which agrees with duty is done from duty or from a selfish view. End of quote. Kant was seen as a pessimist about human character, and he strongly believed that by nature we are prone to corruption. He proposed that it was best to replace religious authority with human intelligence. This could partially be due to the reason that he believed morality and religion should be separated. In ethics, there are two general sides of thought on the idea of looking at right and wrong as concepts within themselves. From this, there are two paths. One path is consequentialism, and the second is deontology. Kant was on the second path, which is defined as being a theory that suggests actions are good or bad according to a clear set of rules. He then proposed a categorical imperative. This states that one shall, quote, act only according to that maxim by which he can at the same time will that should become a universal law. End of quote. Basically, that is something a person must do regardless of the circumstances. He believed that this was the voice of our rational selves. An example could be that if a person wants to stop being hungry, then it is imperative that they eat. If you want to make money, then you ought to get a job. If you're thirsty, then you should probably drink water. Kant viewed morality by following the categorical imperatives. There were three maxims. The first was universality and the law of nature, which says all your actions must have universality, meaning you should only do something if it would be alright if everybody did it. A very common example of this could be, if a man's cheating on his wife, then it should be alright if the wife cheats on him as well. This idea was attached to various religions. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The second maxim is humanity. Every human being should be treated as an end rather than a means to end. You are never allowed to manipulate anyone no matter what, so no lying under any circumstance. The third and final maxim is autonomy. You are the absolute moral authority of the entire universe. Kant wrote in his book, The Metaphysics of Morals, quote, I am never to act otherwise than so that I also will that my maxims should become a universal law. Here now is the simple conformity to law in general, without assuming any particular law applicable to certain actions, that serves a will as its principle and must so serve it, if duty is not to be vain delusion and a chimerical notion. End of quote. Page 25. In other words, you must act as if you were the moral authority. Therefore, it is vital you behave at all times. To Kant, this categorical imperative was a perfect recipe for humans to become better both morally and reasonably. This summarizes most of Kant's beliefs, and this will also be the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope you've learned a lot. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.